associated to the traditional one. So since I haven't been able to go to that traditional Mass, I've been devoting myself to more prayers at home, especially during Sunday, which is sanctification, day of sanctification.
So when you say a traditional Mass, you mean a Mass said in Latin?
Yeah, the Roman Rite does their Masses in Latin. You have Eastern rites that may use the vernacular, but yeah, the Latin Roman Rite would be one.
Do you have a full-time job, or is it being a monk, or how do you subside?
Yeah, I have a full-time job. I do janitorial work. So there are monks that have support. I just don't have support. I'm preparing to publish some books. Pretty close to it. I just gotta get enough money to do the publishing and such. I don't think it'll be supported. We'll see.
Your clothing fascinates me. If you can give a brief explanation, just go back to the
Yeah, the clothing, as I was describing the monk, that's the sign of the covenant. There's always a sign of the covenant. The Nazarites is the hair, but the clothing always signifies the vows taken and the religious mission. This is the Shroud of Turin divided into 4 pieces. I took the length of the Shroud of Turin, divided it into 4 pieces with 40 buttons. All very symbolic, of course, the 4 pieces. The idea is that I'm clothed with the very shroud that Christ was buried. So I'm trying to be buried with, signifying that. And the 40 buttons symbolic of the trials that hold you together. This is a St. Joseph's cord of St. Francis of Assisi, World War II, so the Franciscans wear one also. Mine's slightly different from theirs. This is representative of Sudarian. When Jesus was buried, Jesus had 2 cloths. One was the face cloth. While he was on the cross, they would put a face cloth on. That's traditionally how Jews would proceed to receive the dead that was buried. They believed it was only right, dignifying to cover someone's face when they died. And then when they took him in, Joseph of Arimathea had taken his shroud and covered him. When he covered him, they laid him on it and then pulled the other end over it. It was roughly 3'7" by 14'3" dimensions. This is just a bag for my chaplains for prayer beads. Crucifix, of course, as always. They have. This is representative of the crown of thorns. It's just a crown cap. It's a reminder of humility, walking humility, as much as you're able, by the grace of God. That's it.
How and when did you get your calling or know that this is where you needed to be?
That's a great question. Oh boy. I became a Christian in '94. I was 21. And I entered into the Protestant churches. I became a Protestant for a while. I had my Catholic epiphany, I guess you could say, while I was in seminary working on my master's, and I was a chaplain at that time too, over in Lansing, or McLaren Greater Lansing. They were called Ingham at that time. And I was married with 5 kids. But I went through a messy divorce. Didn't want it, but it happened. Fell out of love. She wanted to move on. And moved in with my father for a little while, but then he had terminal cancer. Cancer came back. He was a Vietnam vet, so we worked with the VA for a while, and then it was being he was terminal, he wanted to come home. So I did my best to take care of him until he passed. And right after he passed, I had been contemplating calling from God, but I didn't settle on anything. And I think the delay was because of where he was in his health. So after he passed, then I revisited the calling, blindly take vows and devote myself in this way to serving His people. To look at them as I would look at my own children, to look at the church as I would my own wife, and to love them in that same manner. And so that's when it was 2001 when I did that. My father passed in 2020. I took vows in 2020. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Any others?
Well, like so the bishop that is here in this denomination, whatever, does he have a say in what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wrote an article about authority and obedience, addressing it. Where's the line? That's always the question. Where's the line? They have an authority, but it's a limited authority. Of course, to go on one end of this spectrum, they can't tell you to go kill an innocent person. They don't have that authority. That belongs to God. On the other end of the spectrum, we can't say they have no authority. So where's the line? The line really is where we see the objective truth of what the Lord Jesus taught us. They can't tell us not to pray, right? They can't tell us not to take vows. Though if I were to have written something heretical, I would certainly hope the bishop and the priest would confront me and to say, hey, what you're doing is heretical and wrong. You know, here it is in your rule. You can't abide by this rule. They would have absolute authority over that, and I would respect that for sure. I've had support of 2 priests, been supported every step of the way. Well, one every step of the way, and the other one I met during sometime after I took my vows. But the bishop, I have not had direct contact with him. I've reached out to some bishops, but they've just kind of, just be obedient. Just go be obedient, be new to your priest, okay. And so I've not had any negative encounters yet. I've submitted my rule too to the SSPX. They're a traditional Catholic group, but they told me the same thing. Just go be obedient to your priest. You just don't worry about it.
Thank you.
So do you have a priest that you go and counsel with? Or?
Not regularly. I have 2 priests who are I consider friends. At least one I consider friend, the other one more of acquaintance. The one is acquaintance. First encouragement, because it's funny, I took Father Francis over in Warren, Michigan at St. Joseph's Church over there as a traditional priest. When I first wrote a very rough copy of the rule, I went to him. And he said, just go and live it. You'll see in a couple of years whether or not the Lord is truly calling you. And then when you've been faithful after a few years, then it's better then to bring it to a priest, because then we know you're serious. And that's the advice he gave me. Been living this way for 4 years.
So you're not assigned, it's just that you picked out the priest that you wanted to go see.
He was a traditional priest. They're very far few in between. I know there's another one, Father Daniel over in Bay City. I talked with him. He didn't have much feedback at all. Father David over at St. Margaret Mary, we talked a few times, but he didn't say anything negative or positive. He was just kind of okay, So.
And you're trying to establish your brotherhood here.
Yeah, to whom the Lord will call, they'll come. So if someone believes they're called, then I tell them read the rule, and we'll go over the initiation rites, which is in the last chapter of the rule. And, I'm just trusting the Lord will call whoever He wants. So it's great questions. Great questions.
Let's thank Brother Joseph for
There it is. Yes, so there we go. Got it.
tonight, he's traveling. So the Kenzie B Cafe BOGO Day, thank you to the Cole family for supporting and donating their day for the Church of the Dunes. He said good attendance throughout the day. There were some interest in the pamphlets and what the Church of the Dunes is doing. So, and it was also nice to help out Kenzie B's also. That was his report. Did anybody, there were a few people that popped in over there. Oh, wow, fantastic. Anything to add? The coffee is hot. Anything to add?
It was busy for an hour and a half or 2 hour stretch. It was just like packed.
Oh, wow. All right.
And then it was all of a sudden quiet.
Yeah. A certain time in the morning, that coffee is a good thing. Pancake snuffer.